Okay, before we start writing code, let's first explain what is a class and an object of a class, right? So a class is more like a blueprint or a template for creating objects. It defines a set of attributes and methods that the objects created from the class will have. For example, let's say we are a company that manufacture cars, right? So now we want to manufacture a car, right? So before we go on making a car, first we must have like a blueprint on how we want our car to be like, what attributes we want our car to have, right? For instance, we can have a car class or a car blueprint like this, right? We know we have an idea of the car we want, and we also know the characteristics of the car, which in this case we have model, brand, and the color of the car, right? So that's the characteristics we want our car to have, right? So let's go to objects, right? An object is an instance of a class, right? When a class is defined, like an object represent specific examples of the class with actual values, Like here we know on a class, it's more like a blueprint on how we're gonna make a car, which characteristics or attributes we want our car to have, right? So for an object is more like an actual car, Like let's say now we want to create a car from this car class, right? We want to make our own car. So what we'll do is that we will create a car based on the template, based on the blueprint of the car, right? As you can know that we can come and create the Ford car, right? Based on the blueprint of the car. We're looking at the characteristics, the model, the brand, and the color. So when we actually make it, an object, this is where now we define it. We'll be like, its model will be Mustang, and then the brand is gonna be Ford, and then the color is gonna be what? Blue. Now we actually have an object of the car. So let's say if now we want to make another car, right? So we just go ahead and make another car that will inherit, right? It will use the car class blueprint to create that car object, right? It's gonna use this blueprint to create what? Another car object. As car 2, now its brand is equals to Ford, and the model is equals to Fiesta, and then the color is what? It's silver. Both of these cars, both of these objects, right? They're using what? The same car class template, car blueprint to. In this case, we can create as many cars as we want. We can have 5 cars, 10 cars, 20 cars, creating them from a class. Right, so this is the difference between a class and an object and how they work. Right, we create a blueprint using a class, and then we create an actual object with values defining the car. Now let's go ahead into writing code and furthermore explain it with practical examples so you can understand what I'm saying. Now let's create a blueprint for our car that we will use to create our car object, right? So in this case, we're gonna use a class to create that blueprint. So we're gonna say class car, and then we're gonna make all the attributes in this blueprint public using the public specifier. Now, as I've said before, I want my car to have at least 3 attributes, which will be brand, model, and year. So we have to declare them. So we're gonna declare the brand attribute, and then we're gonna declare the model attribute, and then we're gonna declare the int, and then we're gonna declare the year attribute, right? So now we have a blueprint for our car. We know that our car is gonna have brand, model, and a year. Now with this blueprint, we can use it to create what? A car object, right? We can create a car object based on the blueprint. To do that, we're gonna say using the car blueprint, the car class. In this case, we want to create my first car object, which is in this case is gonna be car 1. right? So now we have this car one object, right? And it has attributes brand, model, and year. But those attributes, they're not set to anything yet. So what we want to do now, we want to give our first car a brand, right? So we're going to say our first car, its brand is going to be, let's say Ford. In this case, let's use Ford. Now we want to give our car a model. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to say car1.model is equals to, so let's use Mustang. Let's create a Mustang. And then lastly, we're going to give it a year. So we're going to say car1.year is equals to 2024 in this case. Now we have defined our car. Now we know we have car 1 and its brand is Ford and the model is Mustang and the year of the car is 2024. Now what we need to do now, let's run this project and see what happens. Okay, it's compiling. Finish. You see now it completed to run the project, but it didn't display anything on our terminal. Well, let's minimize this. Well, that's because here we haven't displayed anything yet. So in order to display output using C++, we use the cout keyword. Then we're gonna say brand. Then we're gonna end the line. And then we're gonna see out the model as well. And then we're gonna end the line. And then we're gonna see out the year as well. Then we're gonna end the line. So let's run this and see what happens. This should print us the brand, the model, and the year. Now let's run this. Run. As you can see now, it printed out the brand, model, and the year of the car. But here we set the brand of the car to be Ford, the model of the car to be Mustang, and the year of the car to be 2024. But here it's displaying us brand and model and year as nothing. So this is because we haven't really returned the values of the brand, the model, or the year of our car. So to do that, we're gonna access the brand attribute of our car like this. So we're gonna say car1.brand. Right, and then for our model, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna say car1.model. Alright, not car1. And then for the year, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna say car1.year. Like that. So now let's run this code and see what happens. Now you can see now it printed us, it gave us that our brand is Ford, our model is Mustang, and the year is 2024 as we set them here after we created our car object, and then we set the values of our attributes here, and then here now we're printing out what the values of our attributes here. So let's minimize this. Now let's see now, since we created our first car, now we want to create a second car, another car. So to do that, we're gonna use the car blueprint and say, okay, using the car blueprint, I want to create the second car. In this case would be car 2, right? And then I want car 2, its brand to be Ford, right? And then I also want car2, its model, in this case we'll say Fiesta. I want it to be Ford Fiesta. And then for the year, we're gonna say car2, and then the year, I want it to be 2024 as well. Right. Now, since now we have set the attributes for the car2 now, let's display them. So to display them, as you know, we're gonna say cout, and then we're gonna say brand, and then now we're gonna access the brand of the car2. So we're gonna say car2.brand, and then we end the line. And then for the model as well, we do the same thing. Okay, and then even for the year, we also do the same thing to display the year of the car. So we're gonna say year will be equals to car2 dot the year of car2, and then we end the line. So now let's run this code and see what happens. So this should display us, it should create two objects, car1 and car2, and to display their attributes, their properties. So as you can see now, we have brand, Ford, model, Mustang, and then years 2024. And then for the car2, we have the brand, Ford, model is Fiesta, and the year is what? 2024. Now let's talk about access specifiers, also known as access modifiers, are keywords used in object-oriented programming to set the visibility or accessibility of classes, methods, and other members, such as variables. They define how the members of a class can be accessed. Right? So in this video, we're gonna talk about the public and the private access specifier. Okay, now let's start with the public specifier. How do we use it? Well, in this car blueprint of ours, in this car class of ours, we can see that we used the public access specifier, right? We did this because we want these members of the class to be accessed outside the class. In this case here, when we are setting the car brand, right, we were able to access the brand outside the car because it is under what? The public access specifier, right? So that's why we're able to assign the car brand to Ford outside the class, right? So now let's try to change this to private. And now when we change this to private, now we are telling with these members of the class, they can no longer be accessed outside the class, but only inside the class. That's why if you can come here, you look here, you can tell with the brand, it's underlined as red, right? Telling us with this member is inaccessible because it is a private field, right, from the car class, right? So in this case, what do we do when we want to set the brand? Because now we can no longer access it outside the class. Well, to do this, we create special ways, to set the brand, right? By those special ways, I mean we create methods, also known as setters and getters, right? A method to set the brand and a method to get the brand, right? So what we're gonna do now, we want our methods to be accessed outside the class. So we're gonna use the public keyword, right? So telling the program these members that are gonna be under the public access specifier, I want them to be accessed outside the class. Well, in this case now we are talking about what? Setter methods and getter methods. So now let's create a setter method for the brand of car one, of the brand, right? So how do we do that? We're gonna come here and create our setter methods here. So before we create our setter methods, we have to keep these two rules in mind for creating setter methods, right? Rule number one is that a setter method, right, it accepts a parameter. It accepts a parameter, right? And then rule number two, the setter method, it returns nothing, right? It returns nothing. This is because a setter method, it's only meant to set values to attributes, right? And without returning anything. It's like, do this and then don't give me the results, just complete the task, right? So now we're gonna create what? A setter method for the brand. Since you know with a setter method of the brand, it must return what? Nothing. So meaning the keyword that we're gonna use when we're creating the setter method is gonna be what? Void, to tell it with this method is going to return what? Nothing, followed by the method name, which is gonna be what? Set brand, right? And then this method is gonna accept what? A parameter, right? Which is gonna be a string data type, and we want that parameter to be what? A new brand. Now, since we have this method, how do we actually set the brand? How do you actually set the brand to the new brand? Well, in this case, we will come and do almost exactly what we did here when we were setting the car brand to Ford, right? But now the difference is we are going to use this inside the set brand function, the set brand method, right? So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna say brand is equals to new brand, just like that. Now we know with each and every value that we're gonna pass here on the new brand, it is going to be what? Set to the brand of the car object, right? So then after creating a setter, right, to give our car a brand, right? So we also need another special method, another special way we can use to get the brand, right? To know what brand is the car, right? Now this is where now we come and talk about what? Getter methods, right? So now when we're creating a getter method, you have to follow these two rules, right? Which is rule number one. A getter method, it returns a value, right? And also a getter method, right, it accepts no parameter. It accepts no parameters, right? Because when we are getting data, right, we have to return a value of the attribute of the data that we are getting, right? So that's why we don't need to accept any parameters, because we are not going to use those parameters, right? So how do we actually write a getter method? So since we know with here we are getting what? The brand. We are getting the brand of the car. So which is gonna be what? A string data type. So we're gonna say we're gonna be returning a string, right? And the method name is gonna be what? We're gonna be getting what? The brand. And it's not gonna accept any parameter, right? So what are we returning here? We're gonna be returning what? The brand, right? So just like that, we wrote our special ways to set the brand and to also what? Get the brand. Because since now we have made our members private, right? The brand, the model, and the year, we have made them private, meaning we can no longer access them outside the class. With that, we have to create what? A special way to to set them, and a special way to access them, which is to set them and get the brand, right? So let's first let's delete this, and let's delete this. Now, since now we created our first car, right, from the car blueprint, right? So now we want to set the brand of the car, right? So how do we do that now, since now we have created these special ways to set the brand, right? It's very easy. What you're gonna have to do is gonna say car one, right? And then we want to set the brand of car one, right? We want to set that brand of car one. Okay, what brand do we want for car one? In this case, we want our car one to be what? The brand for our car one to be what? Ford. So as we're gonna pass what? Ford as a parameter to this set brand. So what's basically happening here is that this set brand is a method, right? So we're saying car one, set a brand. Which brand? The Ford brand, to that method, right? So as you know, the set brand, it accepts a parameter, which is what? A brand, which is what? The new brand that we're gonna assign to our brand attribute, right? Now, since we successfully set the brand, now how do we actually print out the brand on the terminal, right? How do we show it? So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna use the cout keyword to print out data on the terminal. So we're gonna say cout and then brand, and then now here we're gonna see what? Car one. What do we want from car one? We want to get the brand of car one. So we're gonna say car one dot get brand, and then we invoke the function. We call the function so it can return what? The brand for us, right? And then we end the line there. Now let's run this code and let's see how it works. Now you can see now the brand has been set to what? To Ford, using, let me minimize this, using the encapsulation, using methods, setter and getter methods. We were able to set the brand to Ford, and we were able to get the brand Ford and print it out to the terminal. Okay, now let's do the same thing for the model and the year. So what we're gonna do here, we know which now we want to create a setter for the model, meaning a setter, it accepts no parameter and it returns nothing. So meaning the keyword is gonna be void, and then we're gonna say set model, and then we know which this model is going to accept what? A parameter, and that parameter is gonna be what? The new model. So this data type is going to be string, right? And then what's the parameter? Gonna be what? New model. Not models. New model. Right. And then now we have to set our model to the new model. So we're gonna say model is equals to new model. And then just like that we set our model. Okay, let me change this to capital letter M. And then just like that we set our model to the new model. Now since we set the model, now we need to get the model, right? So when we're getting the model, we know which now a model is what? It's a string data type, meaning we're gonna be returning a string data type. Then we're gonna be getting what? The model, which accepts no parameter. And then we're gonna return what? The model. Right. Now, since now we have defined the setter and the getter for our model, now let's use them. Now let's give our car a model. Now to do that, we're gonna do the same thing as we did as the brand. We're gonna say car1 dot set the model to Mustang. I want the model to be Mustang. Right, now we have set the model. Since now we have set the model, now we want to get the model. Now to get the model, we're gonna to print it out on the console. Now what are we gonna do now? We're gonna use the cout keyword to print out on the terminal. What are we printing out? We are printing out the model, right? And then which model are we printing out? We want to print out the model from car 1. We want to print out the model from car 1. So we're gonna say car 1 get model, and then we're gonna end the line. Now let's run this code and see what it does and how it works. Okay, now you see now it compiles successfully. The process is complete. Now you can see now we were able to set what? We were able to set the brand. We were able to set the brand to Ford, and then we get the brand Ford, which is here. And we're able to set what? The model Mustang, and then we get the model Mustang, which we can see it there. Now let's do the same thing for the year, for the model year. So now we want to create a special way to set what? The model, the year of the model, right? So as we know, for setters, we start with void, and then we set the year, and we're gonna accept a parameter which is gonna be a year, and the year is an integer data type, right? So it's gonna be what? New year. It's not new year yet, but yeah, new year. And then we're gonna say what? The year is equals to what? The new year that we want. The new year that we want. Now after writing the setter method for the year, now we also need to write what? The getter method for the year. So we're just gonna come here. We know what the year is an integer, right? It's a number, right? So we're gonna return a number. So we're gonna say integer, and then the name of the function, which is in this case is gonna be what? We're gonna be getting the year. And a getter, it accepts no parameter. And then we're gonna return the year. Now, after writing those special ways of setting and getting a year, now let's come here now and use them. Now we want to set the year for our car, right? So we're gonna say car 1 dot set year, right? And then which year do we want? We want this car to be 2024, right? And we set the year to 2024. Now, since we set the year, now we have to also want to get the year. So we're just gonna see out the year, year, and then which year do we want? We want the year of car 1, right? So we're gonna say car 1 dot get year. And then we end the line. Now let's run this code and let's see it work in action. Now you see now we were able to successfully set the brand to Ford, the model to Mustang, and the year to 2024. Well, the approach that we just used here, it's called what? Encapsulation. It's like we are protecting certain members. We are protecting certain members of our class, such as brand and model, to be private, right? And then we create another public specifier that will give us special ways to set the brand and to also to get the brand or model or year in this case. So okay, now this concludes the end of this video. So if this video is useful to you, please give it a like, subscribe for more content. As the next video, we're going to be talking about inheritance. So hit that subscribe button to get notified when I release the next video.